Hey guys, and welcome to our Mega Man 11 post-review discussion with Ash Paulsen from GameXplain, LBD Night Train from the Mega Man Network, and Protodude from the Rockman Corner. Also myself, ShadowRockZX. This podcast is an excerpt from episode 7 of the Fully Charged podcast. If you don't know what the Fully Charged podcast is, of course they talk about the Mega Man Fully Charged cartoon, and a lot of other Mega Man things as well, such as Mega Man 11 in this case. The Fully Charged podcast is run by the Mega Man Network and Rockman Corner. If you haven't already, or after this discussion, check out the description below for all the different ways you can listen to the Fully Charged podcast, and links to our guests as well. With that said then, please enjoy the discussion, and take it away, LBD.
Welcome to the most must-listen podcast in Mega Man history. Welcome to the Fully Charged podcast. I am your host, LBD Night Train, otherwise known as David Oxford, and joining me as always is my co-host, the dude who rocks the corner like no other, Brian Ostrin.
I rock that corner. Hey folks, David, how's it going?
It's going. Pretty good with some things and on others.
Yeah, that's life.
But things are about to pick up because on this very special episode, we are not alone. Oh no. Joining us this week is the man from the dark side of the Mega Moon, ShadowRockZX.
Someone get me off this moon! Hey, I'm ShadowRockZX. How you doing, David?
Hey, I'm doing. How you doing?
Doing great.
And Wily, you got some splaining to do. And we've got just the guy to help with that. GameXplain's Ash Paulsen.
Hello there. Thanks for having me on.
Thanks for joining us.
Of course. I'm super excited to talk about everything we're going to go through today. This is going to be a lot of fun.
Woo!
Yeah. On this special episode of the Fully Charged podcast, we are not talking about Mega Man Fully Charged. Nope. This time we are talking about the latest release, the long-awaited Mega Man 11.
Oh boy!
All right.
8 damn years.
Finally come to an end.
Right. It is nicer to be on this side of the 8 years than the side we've been on previously.
Oh my gosh.
Oh,
Yeah.
So much.
Too true.
Yeah.
So yeah, all of us here, we've all gotten to play the game. We've gone through it. We've completed it. The game came out on Tuesday, October 2nd, but we got to check it out a little bit beforehand. The releases have been on the Xbox One, the PlayStation 4, the Nintendo Switch, and the PC via Steam. And just, for a quick frame of reference, I played on the PlayStation 4 and primarily, and I also dabbled a bit on the Nintendo Switch version. Which ones did you guys play?
I reviewed the PS4 version while I was waiting for my physical Switch copy to arrive, and that came about a day before the actual release. But yeah, I enjoy both. Switch more so right now.
Same with Protodude. I got the PS4 review code, and then I got my physical Switch copy just on Tuesday, so.
Nice. And I guess I'm the lone holdout then, because I actually reviewed the Switch version. I got a code for the Switch version, and then Capcom also sent over an Amiibo Edition, which arrived last Friday. So I essentially have 2 Switch copies.
Oh man, they wouldn't let me do that. They're like, no, we can't give you a Switch code and the physical.
I know, I was surprised they sent both, but I was able to do an unboxing video of the Amiibo Edition, so it was worth it. But I was surprised too.
Cool.
So what's the quality looking like on that Amiibo?
It's looking really nice. There's still something a little off about the face, in my opinion.
The face looks so off.
There's something about that face, but the coloration, the pose, his body, all of that looks great. It's just there's something slightly off about the face, but everything else I'd say I like. And the silver base with the 30th anniversary logo, that's really cool too.
Now, when you say there's something off about the face, now is that the Amiibo got something off, or is it just something about the art style that maybe didn't translate, or that just you feel seems off to begin with?
Oh, it's 100% the Amiibo. Not like, let me be very clear. I love the art style for Mega Man 11. I think Mega Man looks pretty much perfect in his key art for Mega Man 11, and just in general, I love his design in this game. So it's very much something about the Amiibo mold, the way something about the face just doesn't carry across. Yeah.
Yeah, it's like the eyes, they look exactly like, his in-game art style and the key art, but it's the expression. I don't know. It looks so strange.
It's like the placement of the eyes and the expression. It's a little like his eyes are placed a little too outwardly compared to the official art.
And there's something with his face, like with the grimace he's got going on. I don't know. There's something just going on with the proportions of his face that don't look quite right to me.
Yeah.
So let me ask you this. One thing about the Amiibo is that with the Nintendo Switch version of the game, you can tap it once per day and get some items, I believe an E-can, maybe some other stuff.
Yes.
And if I'm not mistaken, the Smash Amiibo of Mega Man also performs the same function.
Yep.
Now, here's a thought that I've been kind of rolling around in my head since we're kind of on the subject tangentially a little bit, but I really do like the new design for Mega Man and Mega Man 11 as well. At the same time, part of me kind of wishes, especially with Super Smash Bros. Ultimate coming up and using the same design as Super Smash Bros. For Wii U and Nintendo 3DS, that maybe they'd gone with that design. Do you guys have any preferences between the two?
I do. I actually prefer the new design in Mega Man 11 because it's more like Mega Man 8-esque, and I really like the designs in Mega Man 8. Smash Brothers, I'm fine with it, but it's exactly like the NES sprites, and I don't care for the soulless look in Mega Man's eyes in Super Smash Brothers. So
Yeah,
I agree.
I pretty much
That's a
agree.
fair point.
Yeah,
That's a fair point. Although my thinking on it was more less like, in like, say the proportions. In fact, I think the in-game model for Mega Man and Mega Man 11 seems to more closely resemble the proportions of Smash Brothers, if I were to guess, than the art, which isn't uncommon for Mega Man games. But I was thinking more like along the lines of the detailing and the panel lines than, say, necessarily the expression or anything like that.
They definitely took some cues from Smash Brothers with the lines on his chest.
Mm-hmm. I think ShadowRock, didn't you have like a theory that it's part of the plot, kind of like Mega Man has more like extra exhaust ports because of the gears? He needs to like let out some steam or something like that.
Yeah, I made a.
that would be pretty cool.
I made a Twitter post one time. I was talking about how they were showing off how when he uses the double gear system and you turn it off, you see these fumes coming out of him. I was thinking, well, maybe the new lines on him was intentional to allow him to exhaust that fume, because the double gear system can overheat your system, so that's the angle I was going for.
That's such a good idea.
Yeah, no, I like that idea a lot. And I would say I was actually kind of hoping for the opposite, which was before we knew that Smash Bros. Ultimate was Smash Bros. Ultimate, before we knew for sure that Mega Man was returning along with everybody else, I was kind of hoping that if Mega Man came back, that they would actually update his design in Smash to look more like his Mega Man 11 design. And I didn't think that would happen, but I was just kind of hoping it would, but I wasn't actually thinking they would actually do that. But I just really love his, I love the additional lines on his, on his body and his armor. I love, and kind of like what ShadowRock was saying, I just love his proportions here in 11, because I've always been more of a fan of his taller, slimmer, kind of slightly more anime-like proportions in Mega Man 8, and 11 is very much a return to that. And I think his Smash Brothers model works for Smash Brothers. It's very much trying to be a 3D representation of his classic NES sprite, and I think that works for Smash Brothers. Although I do agree with what you guys are saying. I don't care for his soulless look in his eyes in Smash, but I do think that his overall look in Smash works very well for Smash.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, of course.
Yeah, I do kind of wish that Smash would have followed the more updated look myself, but it is what it is. I guess they're distinct versions now. Incidentally, with the redesign, I guess this makes a good segue into Mega Man's voice. Kind of seems like it's different from what we've had before and sounds older.
I'm heading out, Dr. Light!
And leading up to this, I was wondering, maybe there's been enough of a gap in time. Maybe at some point, like, Rock got upgraded and he's supposed to be, like, an older, slightly older Mega Man now. But looking like, going through the game, it doesn't seem to be anything to substantiate that, so...
Yeah. Well, and I think the fact that if you play through with his Japanese voice track, his voice sounds like the kid that he's always meant to be.
Rockman 11 運命の歯車
I think that kind of undercuts that as well. I think really the fact that he sounds older than he's supposed to is just down to Capcom's voice direction, and maybe and that's legitimate too. Maybe they were thinking, in the US or in the West, a Mega Man who sounds like a kid wouldn't fly as well as a Mega Man who sounds a little more grown up. So I get why they went with that direction, but I play through with the Japanese voice track most of the time just because he's a kid. He's supposed to sound like a kid to me,
Right. The last time Mega Man was voiced by a kid or just like a younger male actor was Powered Up, and I remember the community was pretty kind of split on that performance. A lot of people wanted him to sound older, a little more tougher, but I mean, I personally liked it, but maybe that's something Capcom was kind of receptive to.
Yeah, it's pretty much a flip-flop. If you prefer the older voice or the more childish-like voice, it's pretty much up to preference at the end of the day. Kind of like, music and audio, it's all about what you think, what you prefer. But as for me, I played English most of the time. I actually didn't mind Mega Man's voice. I think it's fine. He actually put some emotion behind it. So I didn't really mind that he sounds a little older than he should be. But I understand that most fans say, oh, Mega Man should sound younger. I understand that. Like, I love the Japanese voice as well, but the thing I really like about the English voice acting in Mega Man 11 was the Robot Master performances. Those were awesome.
Trying to take my spotlight?
Yes.
Fantastic. Both English and Japanese were just fantastic.
Yeah, they really were. And I do want to point out that I think it's Ben Diskin who did Mega Man's English voice in Mega Man 11, and I want to point out that I think he did a great job. I think it's just about the voice direction. It's about what Capcom decided they wanted with the voice, but I do think that when they decided, we want him to sound a little older, and they got Ben to do it, Ben did a great job. So I want to make it clear that I'm not hating on him specifically.
No, he did a great job.
Yeah.
I like how the performance went. Speaking of the older voice and such, though, and you were mentioning the Mega Man 8 art style earlier, and it's just funny because, like, when I grew up with Mega Man, the idea that he was, like, basically supposed to be about 10 was just, like, not there. And keeping in mind, like, this is growing up with, like, the Worlds of Power book and the Ruby Spears animated series as the chief fiction for Mega Man. And then they turn around and Mega Man 8's here and he's like, Dr. Light! And, I mean, it's just... That was just so jarring, and it makes more sense. It works a little better when, he's supposed to be, like, a kid a little bit. But then you also... The thing that always stuck with me about that is you look at the art, and while I do I love the Mega Man 8 art style, it really jived with how I saw Mega Man growing up as, like, more like a teenager or young adult, something along those lines. And then you look at the one of Mega Man standing next to Dr. Light, and he's, like, as tall, maybe even a little taller, but they're, like, very similar height, and it's, Dr. Light's the older man, and Mega Man's a 10-year-old, and it's just like, what? How was I supposed to get that from this?
Right. And Roll's just as tall, too, in that Mega Man 8 art. It's just,
Yeah, exactly. So it's just kind of weird how they've really bounced it back and forth over the years, and
it's just...
Yeah, I don't even know.
It makes me think about how, like, throughout the classic series, all the characters have always been portrayed as chibi-like characters, and you look at some of the official artwork that just came out in the production notes booklet, that Mega Man is so tiny compared to most of the Robot Masters. Like, the Mega Man character's always been portrayed as this tiny little robot.
And that, that kind of surprised me. I noticed that when I was playing through again the other day, and how from the key art, I wouldn't expect Mega Man to be that much smaller than the Robot Masters, but when you play the game, he's, like, minuscule, even compared to someone like Blockman, which actually really surprised me.
Yeah,
he's just... It's kind of neat, but, I at the same time, I kind of miss the days when you'd have some more Robot Masters that were of equal stature, so...
Yeah.
Right.
Not to knock on any of the designs here. I love all the designs here, but it's just, kind of just a little bit of nostalgia twinging.
To kind of bounce off that, actually, I will say the designs here in general, especially for for Mega Man himself, but also for the Robot Masters, Yuji Ishihara, that was such a great get for them to make him the art director on Mega Man 11, because you can totally see his Battle Network influence here. And in a good way, though. Like, you can see it in a good way, and I love Mega Man's different forms, but I especially want to shout out the Robot Masters. Like, 11's set of Robot Masters has to be one of my favorite yet, just in terms of their design, how they exist in relation to one another. I think 11 absolutely nailed that part of things.
This is probably the strongest Robot Masters in a long time. The strongest lineup, I should say.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like like I said in my review, like, we're gonna remember these Robot Masters for years. Like, even if there is a Mega Man 12, these guys are just so endearing. They're gonna stick around in our minds for a long time.
Yeah.
You think they're effectively the new Mega Man 2 of Robot Masters, as it were?
You know,
I do.
I wouldn't be surprised. Yeah,
I could see that, actually, yeah. At first, when you say it like that, it's like, ooh, I don't know about that. But at the same time, yeah, I could kind of see that being the case.
these guys have so much personality. They're funny one-liners and everything. It's so good.
Yeah. Just like what Blockman and Impact Man, like they hang out at oil bars after work. Like, that's great. There's just so much character with these Robot Masters.
Fuse Man has a pet rabbit named Watt.
Yeah, and Tundra Man just, because he's out in I guess the South Pole or Antarctica or wherever by himself, but he really wants to be a figure skater, so he just practices in his spare time. I love stuff like that.
Torchman is Torch Jutsu.
Torch Jutsu, the Flaming Fist!
Yeah.
Yeah.
The one thing that I really do like about the game is basically as far as lore goes, I think this is probably, and it's funny because it's not a particularly story-heavy game, but at the same time, the actual in-game lore is probably the richest of any classic Mega Man game we've ever had. We've got all the profiles there from the start. Like, I know there have been remakes that include profiles, but it's right there at the start.
Right.
You've got the Mega Buster in the weapon descriptions. Like, I don't think the reference to the solar bullets that the Mega Buster fires has ever been referenced in-game before, and right there it is on the sub-screen. Having to, find out so much of this stuff through supplemental materials in another language and waiting for somebody to translate it over the years, this is just, honestly kind of refreshing.
Yeah, I agree. That it was very clear that the localization team really researched the lore well and made sure that they really crossed their T's, dotted their I's. And if you look, there are all sorts of little Easter eggs and such too. Like, I think it's Tundra Man, who, if you look at his gallery, he was created in Cossack Laboratories. Mm-hmm. Which is really cool. I love that they're just a little nod. It's not front and center, but hey, if you've been a longtime fan, you played Mega Man 4, you make that connection. That's really cool. So little things like that, and the solar bullets, like you were saying.
So Tundra Man's description is really cool, you're saying?
Yes, very cool.
Yeah.
Yes.
Oh, we went there.
Oh,
It's
man,
Sub-Zero.
I wasn't letting that one get by.
But I saw a lot of people, when I pointed out on Twitter about the Cossack connection, people were like, oh, no wonder this is my favorite Robot Master. I love Mega Man 4.
So
I do love how the definition of what a Wily number is continues to get stretched and kind of just expanded. Because now I feel like Mega Man 11 makes it clear that these Robot Masters were not built by Wily, but that they were working for Dr. Light, I guess, because they're not light numbers either.
Yeah.
So it's kind of weird how the lore keeps playing around with the idea of what Wily numbers actually are, but I guess as long as Wily repurposes them for his own ends, that's enough to call them a Wily number.
That's true, because,
Right.
it doesn't seem like Dr. Light created them necessarily, but they do work for him because how the story sets it up. They're like, Dr. Light's just merely doing maintenance on them, making sure they're all right so they can go back to work.
Right.
So it's pretty interesting.
You should see the Mega Man Network's Twitter timeline as far as the whole Dr. Wily numbers thing right now.
Oh, yeah.
Boy.
Oh my god, it's just blown up over the last day or so, and it's I don't know. It's not especially consistent.
Exactly. There's zero consistency there.
Right. Yeah, Mega Man 1's was all DLN, right?
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Right.
Yeah.
And
Or
9
DR.
as well.
Unless you're in Japan.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
I just think at this point they do the DWN just out of just making it easier on them. So you have to make up all these different acronyms for every Robot Master.
Yeah, consistency.
Right.
Of a sort. Now, as long as we're on the subject of Robot Masters, do you guys have any favorites?
Tundra Man.
You want to dance?
Tundra Man 100%.
Yeah.
I love how he's like, oh, I just watched ice skating championship on TV one day, so now I want to be an ice skater too. And you can see he's really practiced, and he's so elegant and fabulous, of course. Everything, I just love everything about him.
Yeah.
It's hard to pick one really, but if I had to,
so many are good.
yeah, if I had to, by Mega Buster held to my head, I guess Blast Man.
Come on, explode!
He's just, the design is so cool, the personality is awesome, and that's just like seeped in his stage. You know, how he's kind of full of himself. It's awesome.
Yeah, I gotta say,
It's art.
you guys took two really good ones because I agree with both of you. Tundra Man and Blast Man are two of my favorites. I do gotta give I feel like Blockman is being overlooked just because he was the first one revealed and people are
he's
used to
good
him
too.
by now. But I gotta say, I really do love Blockman.
Your fate's carved in stone!
I
was
love
actually
this
going
whole
to-
thing.
He's so cute.
He's so
I was
mad.
actually going to say Blockman is one of my favorites.
Nice.
Actually. I love the way he kind of does the whole headmaster thing and turns into the head of a giant, like, block robot thing that just, comes stomping after you. And I mean, at first at playing the demo, I was a little grated by him, but he's really endeared myself. Especially, like, he seems to be the one who gets all the, the speaking lines and the cutscenes and stuff. So
Right.
Yeah.
His
I will
puns,
say,
though.
I also
Nobody
really
blocks
like.
Blockman.
I also really like Fuse Man.
Let's amp this up.
I have to say, he kind of reminds me of of an Elec Man, but for 2018. Just kind of a really cool, streamlined design. One of the coolest, along with Blast Man, I think, of this new set of 8. And I love it. I like his English voice. I like his whole design. I like how Mega Man looks when he gets the Scramble Thunder. Just everything about Fuse Man, I think, was really, really on point.
Yeah,
tell me he does not sound like Vegeta.
Yeah.
No, not quite. I don't quite hear that.
Well, more the original, shoot, who was it? The early Vegeta rather than the Funimation dub.
Oh, the Ocean Group one?
Yeah.
Yeah. I can't remember his name. But yeah.
Yeah, actually, Fuse Man
I'm
would.
blanking. I want to say Brian Drummond, but that's the current one, isn't it?
I don't know.
Yeah, I'm not sure.
Fuse Man is
I feel
definitely.
I feel really bad because I mean they both do such great jobs with the character. But,
Yeah.
But I mean now we have this guy too who also does a great job.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. Brian Drummond. Yep, Brian Drummond. Just looked it up.
Oh, nice.
My other favorite among the Robot Masters, Impact Man has really kind of grown on me because he's just reminds me of especially when you've got you're seeing his silhouette when he's blowing up or whatever, he kind of reminds me of a Transformer. So, and he's got the whole combiner aspect. So,
Oh, yeah.
those are some
Yeah.
neat touches that I really enjoy.
Transformers. He's got a Dracula voice.
Behold, Impact Man!
Come on, guys. Literally Dracula.
I will say Impact Man was one of my lesser. I was like, he's kind of cool. But then when I realized that the things attacking you throughout the stage are actually his parts, I'm like, okay, that's pretty
know.
cool. Like the whole Transformer angle is really neat with him. I'm not a big fan of his voice or kind of his overall silhouette, really, but I do love the idea that he's essentially a transforming robot master.
Yeah, that's the draw for me.
Yeah.
Yeah, and him attacking you on the stage is like a bit of a remnant. During development, they're actually considering having each Robot Master kind of attack you as you're going through the stage. So I'm glad that kind of stuck around for the finished game because it's just such a cool idea that he's 3 separate robots, and they're just drilling about while you're blasting away, and it's very unique. Makes the stage really unique.
Yeah, you pointed out, Protodude, that Acid Man swims by during his stage. That's really
Right.
cool.
Yeah,
Yeah, I never even noticed that when I was playing.
Yeah, same here.
Yeah. You blink and you miss it, but yeah, his silhouette goes by in the gross tank behind you.
Of course, the Robot Master attacking you as you're going through the stage isn't entirely new, but
Oh
No.
yeah.
But it did bring back fond memories of Jet Stingray, the way he would attack you during his stage, even though that's a Ride Chaser stage. But
the only good Ride Chaser stage, in my opinion.
I would agree with that, actually. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, unless we count, if we count Overdrive Ostrich, then I'll that one gets a pass too. But otherwise, yeah, I would say Jet Stingray is the only one.
I don't, because the one there is purely optional.
Yeah, totally. I hear you.
Then again, I guess the one in X7 is technically purely optional, so okay, I'll allow it.
Awful.
Oh man, that stage, jeez.
Awful.
Yeah,
'Cause there's no way I'm going to go condemning Ride Chaser stages without including X7.
yeah.
So yeah, X2, welcome to the family.
But I gotta say, in terms of the Robot Masters, there isn't a single one I hate. Like, I love all these guys. They have so much personality. They're all really fun. And like Ash was saying, Fuseman is awesome too to me. He's probably my second favorite. You know, he's pretty much like an edgy boy in a way. And he has some really funny lines like, "Prepare to diode.
Prepare to diode."
I do love that.
Yeah. I love his animation. Like when he warps down, you know, and he's all like covered in electricity in the eyes. Like I go to the gallery mode just to like watch that in like a loop. It's so cool.
Yeah. You know, just in general, just the effects in this game, the hit effects, explosions, weapons, they really look nice in this game, and I feel that's something that people have kind of glossed over because, I don't know, there's certain people on the internet with their hot takes talking about how Mega Man 11 looks low budge or
It's another Mighty Number 9.
It doesn't look low budget at all to me, and I will say that it has a simple, I was going to say simple and clean art style, not an intentional Kingdom Hearts reference, but it has a simple and a clean art style, and I think it works for the game, and it allows those kind of little effects to really pop. Like, again, the lighting effects and explosions and hits and things like that. It just, everything looks really nice and crisp in this game.
Yeah, you don't want it to be too busy, or else, like, you can't see the effects. You can't really appreciate it.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
I really want to put a spotlight on the backgrounds in this game because, for example, you're fighting that turkey, and there's these Metars at a bonfire in the background, dancing.
So good.
And dinosaurs in the background, Tundra Man stage, the stormy skies in Fuse Man, and the hieroglyphics in Blockman stage with a prophecy to be foretold. It's really good.
It's a gibberish language too, right? Didn't they say that in his profile? Like he made it up or something?
Yeah, he made it up himself.
And I do like
Lockmanese.
I love how some of the backgrounds tell a story too. Like some of the backgrounds in the stages tell the story of the passage of time. So like with Blockman stage, for example, you start during midday, the sky's blue, and then in the middle of the stage, you get this really beautiful sunset background, and then at the end of the stage, you get a night sky. Same thing with Bounce Man. Not exactly the same thing with Bounce Man. It's during the daytime outside when you begin the stage, and then by the end, you've got this beautiful starry night sky. And I just love when the backgrounds tell their own stories like that.
Yeah.
That's probably my favorite parts in the game visually. You're inside this night sky planetarium. It's awesome.
Yeah.
I love day-to-night transitions. I just kind of wish, like, say, with Blockmans, that maybe you could still see it when you're fighting them, but the background for his battle, his little arena room is good, too.
Right.
Mm-hmm. The mural of everything that you've encountered. Yeah, it's very cool.
it just makes me want to see. I mean, I want Mega Man 12 anyway, of course, but I just want to see what more can be done with this visual style because I really am a huge fan of it, and I think they've only scratched the surface in terms of what they can actually do with it. And I would love to see them give it another go with Mega Man 12. Now they're not trying to come up with a new design; they've got the new design established. So let's see how far they can push it.
Mm-hmm. Just a quick side note. Hearing Mega Man 12 still sounds so foreign to me because I'm still feeling like we've been so long without a Mega Man 11 that
I know.
It feels like when you say Mega Man 12, like we're skipping a number.
And it's funny too, like I've experienced this with my wife, like when you don't know the entire context of everything, it's very hard for the layperson to feel bad for Mega Man fans because just the fact when you say Mega Man 11, it's like if you don't know the context, it's like, why do you guys feel sorry for yourselves? You guys have had 10 games already, and most series don't make it to 10, let alone 5 or 6 or 7. So when you don't know the context surrounding everything, it's like Mega Man fans are fine. You just got your 11th game, but of course, we know that we had to wait 8 years between the 10th and 11th. So
and not to mention, there was a very big gap between 8 and 9 too.
That too. Although that gap was, at least if you were a fan of Mega Man in general, at least that gap had other series kind of.
Yeah, like that's the other thing too. People will probably point out, oh, you got 11 games, and then you got all your spin-offs too. The X, Zeros, the Star Forces, the Battle Networks. What's the problem here?
Yeah, that's what my wife was saying. She's like, I don't feel bad for you guys. Like, come on. Then I explained it to her. She's like, okay, I guess I kind of see what you mean.
I've been saying for years now that honestly, compared to a lot of other series, Mega Man fans are practically spoiled.
We are.
I did cover the the gaps and how this one differed from the last one in my review, as kind of a preamble that went on longer than I expected it to. But and it's like I just remember when they announced that new Strider years ago, and people were just like jumping all over Capcom, like, why Strider? Why not a new Mega Man? And it's like, okay, we were like maybe 2 years out from Mega Man 10. Strider's last game came out in like 99, 2000, somewhere around there, I think. And it's like, come on, let someone else, like, you know, at least have a chance. Like, you know, it's
Yeah.
Oh, right. And
no need to be that petty about it.
when Marvel vs. Capcom 3 came out, everybody was mad because Mega Man X was not there, but Zero was.
I'll admit, I'm guilty as charged. That was like my big. I don't really get upset about things on the internet ever, but that just came at the wrong time, I guess, and I was really hoping for X to be in it. And I think it was because it was coming on the cusp of so many other disappointments.
Right,
And I'm
yeah.
like,
Yeah.
Like,
yeah.
People don't understand. Yeah, we waited 8 years for this game, but more than that, that came off the cusp of Mega Man Legends 3 getting canceled, and Universe, and also that Korean game,
Rockman Online.
Rockman Online.
We had 4 cancellations, and Inafune leaving on top of it all. You know, it was just
Right.
kind of like, oh my god, what's happening?
Yeah.
What was the fourth one?
The Maverick Hunter FPS.
Oh, I don't think that was ever canceled. I don't think that was ever actually greenlit. Wasn't that just a pitch?
Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah, it was a pitch. All right.
Yeah, I don't think it was
Three
ever
cancellations.
officially. Yeah, but still, oh
Yeah.
god, I'm so glad. Like sometimes I think about that, and I think about what might have been if Keiji Inafune had been allowed to greenlight that, and I'm so glad he wasn't. Like we talk about, all these cancellations and the cancellations suck. That is one quote unquote cancellation I am eternally grateful for.
Although
Yes.
Universe might not have done so well either because the art style
Yeah.
was so weird. Although it would have been nice to have like a semi-official Mega Man maker.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I agree.
The last time that we heard about Mega Man Universe was that it was like undergoing changes, and we never got to see those changes. But I've always been under the assumption it was because of the reception from the art style.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Maybe the change was that they were axing it.
Yeah.
It's gone from a game to a non-game.
The changes,
doesn't
we deleted it.
Oh man.
But yeah, it was an odd time, just the period in between. I can see why Capcom took so long, because they mentioned like how there was sort of a certain trepidation they seemed to have after Inafune left. And you look at what they did do following Inafune's departure and the Legends cancellation, and like literally nothing was ever really good enough for so many people, and a lot of it was just kind of awkwardly timed. There was the Zero thing, as mentioned. There was Zero wearing X's skin in
man.
the same game.
There was bad box art Mega Man in.
I was just about to say that. Yeah, that was supposed to be like, you know, a bit of good-natured fun, but the timing just made it look like, you know,
Apparently that was
Capcom.
That was Inafune's fault too.
Yeah, that could not have been worse timed. Like that could not have been more badly timed. Just because, in literally any other time, it would have been taken as the good-natured reference it was. But it just could not have come at a worse time.
Like, I truly believe that was supposed to go hand in hand with Mega Man Universe, because that would have had bad box art Mega Man in it. The timing would have worked there, but I guess they just like, let it go. Keep him in the fighting game.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's just, God, no wonder it took so long for them to do it. We probably had them, like, you know, shaking in their boots. Nobody wanted to volunteer anything. I mean, even Legacy Collection was, like, you know, just being jeered. And God, were people down on the Virtual Console releases? I don't remember. It's just, people seem to be down on everything.
Yeah.
Even people who don't even make games, and people are wanting them to make new games if Capcom wasn't going to. And it's like, it doesn't work like that. I don't really think the Bandai's toy division, just because they made a new Mega Man X figure, is going to suddenly start, like, you know, cranking out games. And it's, I don't think they're allowed to do that.
You know, I got a few emails like that. Because I used to work at Udon, who do the Mega Man art books, and we got a few emails during that whole time, like, hey, why won't you guys make a new Mega Man game? And it's like, I don't think you quite understand how this works. Because we're not a game development studio. We're not Capcom. But yeah, the fans were definitely, as bad as things got, the fans definitely got pretty indignant about it as well. So I don't necessarily blame Capcom for being scared off by that.
The fans got toxic during that time.
Yeah.
It's like everything they did. Oh, why aren't you making a new game?
Mega Man 11 at all.
We single-handedly kept Rockman Crossover, the mobile game, out of the West. Like, we were so fed up and upset with it, what the game was, and Christian Svensson at the time, he said, yeah, we're not moving forward with plans. Like, there were plans to bring it here, but they're like,
Yeah.
no. Yeah.
Can't really blame them for that one, because you had even had people saying really, really outrageous things like, they owed us Mega Man Legends 3. How dare they? It's like, wait a minute, no,
Yeah.
Capcom didn't owe you any of us anything. We want it, and we really hope to get it, but they don't owe. The only people they owe are their shareholders and their bottom lines. They don't owe anybody else.
People forget it's a business.
I'm going to dispute that in part because there was that promise when the Nintendo eShop on the 3DS launched that we would at least get the demo
Good point.
that we know that they made, and that they would basically base their decision going forward from that. And we never got that opportunity. That was kind of a broken promise, and that was kind of a bad faith move all around.
That's a good point.
The timing of Inafune's departure from Capcom is so weird because before Legends 3 was, came up with, people asked him during a panel, hey, what's the game that you want to make the most? And he said, Mega Man Legends 3, I really want to make it. And the crowd started cheering about it. And then that's when he came up with the project for it. But then he left. Why don't you just stay on long enough to work on this game you wanted to make so badly?
Didn't he even offer to continue it at Concept?
He did.
Early on?
I think he did. Yeah.
But Capcom wasn't having any of that. Right.
Yeah.
No. Story of Mega Man 11.
Yeah, speaking of which, I think we're getting slightly derailed here.
Good point.
Something I wanted to bring up back after we were talking about the Robot Masters. Okay, we pretty much all agree the Robot Masters, the whole lot of them are pretty cool, right? Now, how do you guys feel about the stages?
Generally, I like the stages a lot. Some of them feel maybe they're a little long, but at the same time, I also kind of prefer longer stages in Mega Man, so that didn't really bother me too much.
Same here.
Yeah, I actually I like how distinct all the stages feel from one another, and I like how creative a lot of their settings are. You've got Torchman's campground, you've got Bounce Man's indoor fitness center, stuff like that. Like, I really like how distinct every stage feels from the others in this game.
Yeah, it's not just like, oh, here's your other fire stage, here's another electric stage, or another wood stage, or whatever. No, they have these unique settings that haven't really been done in Mega Man as of yet.
Right.
I agree. Torchman's stage was definitely very inspired, although I do feel it, like you said, some of the stages ran a little long. I think I'd have rather had more stages that were a little shorter than, the number that we got that are longer. Like, the fire chase thing in Torchman's stage, I had my fill after the second one, and the third one's just a little nasty almost, trying to get through it.
Fall to the fists of flame!
Yeah, although I will say that much like other things in Mega Man games, I felt the same way you did, and then once I got those sequences down, though, they become a lot easier. Like, once you know where all the tells are and what they want you to do and what you need to avoid doing what they want you to do, then once you learn all the little tricks in those sequences, it gets a lot easier. But I hear you. Like, I had my fill of that initially after the first couple of playthroughs.
That's true, though.
My main hang-up is the little S-shaped thing that you have to jump up through from the bottom there. And I've heard somebody mention that the way the foregrounds are rendered in 3D, it kind of reduces the, knowing just where you need to jump and, how to get around, something so tight as that versus, if something like Mega Man 9 or 10, for example, where it's just, flat 2D without the perspective in play.
That's fair. I know exactly which part you're talking about, too, and I have lost my fair share of lives to that part. So using the speed gear at that part is helpful. But, yeah, I hear you. And there are some stages that threaten to be a little... not samey to other stages in Mega Man 11, but samey to other stages that have come prior. Like, I think Tundra Man's stage, as much as I like Tundra Man himself, his stage kind of just reminds me of, Freeze Man's stage. You've got, the frozen fossils in the background, and it's an ice stage. And it's a fun stage. I enjoy playing through it, and I love the mini-boss. It's a fun stage, but it's an ice stage, essentially,
Yeah, at least it has the museum motif going on.
Yes.
So there's
Dude, that was cool.
to help break it up.
That was really neat.
Now, one stage that irritated me a little bit. Not so much that, like, I felt like really calling it out before, but, hey, we're just talking here, so. But Bounce Man stage.
Let's get hopping!
It reminded me a bit of, whose stage was it?
Springman.
Springman, yep.
Yeah, like Springman, except not quite as well done, because you can really get kind of hung up in these spots where it's difficult to bounce where you need to.
Well, Springman had
I'm pretty
that
sure in
too.
Springman I'd have been able to do it, but here it was just, you kind of had to like stop and like almost reset the whole sequence.
Right. I like the gimmick in theory. Like you're kind of trying to build momentum. Like you're climbing higher and higher and higher to like launch yourself up in the air. But like it's too much. You really you have to like get used to a whole new like set of jumping physics. It's
Yeah, they ease you into it, but yeah, sure. I agree that some of the hitboxes could be better. Like there's just one room where you gotta basically do a full jump to get on this like box of balls, and then you gotta jump on them. But sometimes the hitbox is so big that when you try to jump into them, you get bounced off the other direction. So yeah, there's definitely instances like that. There's like a couple rooms in Bounceman stage I kept getting stuck on just because you get used to the physics, and it's like, I have to do this again.
Yeah. I don't know. I didn't have. I mean, I did call out. It's funny. These two specific stages I called out in my review as having some, some problems compared to the others, being Torchman and Bounceman stage. But I will say it was more Torchman for me. Bounceman, yeah, initially I had some problems with the physics and kind of wrapping my head around that, but it didn't last that long. And I have to say, I've seen some people really, really raging about Bounceman stage. Like it's one of the worst stages in the history of Mega Man, and it's broken and all this, and I'm not seeing that. Like I know you guys aren't saying that, but
it's a slight nuisance, but it's not the worst.
we've had so much worse.
In my opinion, there isn't a single bad stage, unless we're talking about Dr. Wily stage 3 and 4.
right. Which I would agree with that as well. Yeah.
Yeah, those are like almost non-stages, really. For what they are, they're fine. But
like
the fact that they are stages 3 and 4 of Dr. Wily, and that goes back to what I was saying before. I would rather have more shorter stages, maybe like a little bit shorter than having like all these super long ones, especially if it's gonna like cut off at the end like that.
Sure.
Yeah, that was, I think, that's kind of a commonality between all of us, I think, and just in general, based on the reactions I've been seeing, is that the Wily Castle portion of this game is rather disappointing. Like, the Gear Fortress is a cool idea, I think, but they just don't take the concept far enough. Like, I actually really like the first Wily stage because I love the background, because you're literally going around the castle, and the gear motif makes sense. Like, it actually plays into the design of the level.
Right.
But then you got Wily Stage 2, which is fine, it's fun, it's cool, but then it's done. And then you kind of lose that whole gear motif until the final boss, of course, but that's kind of its own thing. And I was personally hoping for something along the lines of Mega Man 4, 5, and 6, where you get a little more content between the Robot Master stages and the final Wily Castle. Like, I kind of wanted two castles I was hoping for.
Yeah. That's what I was hoping when the game was over, when he was like, he did his little bow speed gear thing. I thought we were getting a lead into like another castle, but no. Yeah.
I didn't expect a whole other castle, but I expected at least something like, Mega Man 2, where you beat Wily and then he takes off and then you have to chase him down, and then beat him again.
Yeah, I mean, 10 had that even.
Yeah.
Yeah, now you mentioned it, Protodude. That would have been a great tie-in to another castle. Oh, I'm not done yet. I'll see you in the next castle. I'll beat you this time.
And there's Protoman, and there's Base. Like, all right, but yeah.
Yeah.
It makes me want more, which is a good thing, I think.
If they were going to do two castles, it would have been funny if they played the gear motif like that, like one castle represents one gear and the other one represents another.
Oh, they transform the castle in front of your eyes, dude.
Yeah, speed gear castle and a power gear castle. I like that.
Dang it, David.
Yeah.
Dang it, David. The game already shipped.
Yeah.
Well, that's what DLC is for, I guess.
But we just brought up two particularly important names, and I'm curious to see how you guys feel about this, because Protoman and Base, where are they? What happened here? Why would Tsuchiya think that fans just don't want to see these characters? And again, I want to say, Tsuchiya did an amazing job. I think the series is in good hands with him. However,
Yeah.
What happened? Like, these are important characters, and they're just gone.
Not to mention the 30th anniversary polls. They asked him, hey, what are your favorite characters? Who are the top 2 spots? Base and Proto Man.
Right.
It's. I kind of think, like, they mentioned this in one of the interviews, that they were kind of, with 11, they're kind of going back to the basics. Maybe that part of that is stripping the cast down to, like, its bare essential members, kind of, you know what I mean?
Yeah,
so they're not throwing too many characters at you for new players, because Mega Man 11 will be, like, the first Mega Man game for a lot of people. I've kind of seen that already. But, I don't know, they can kind of make the return of, Proto Man and Base kind of like a selling point for a DLC or even 12.
Right.
Yeah. Otto's a top tier character, I guess.
Obviously.
He is.
But I was a little bit disappointed there. It was kind of I get the soft reboot idea. Proto Man, it's like that would be neat DLC, as you say. Same with Base. I don't feel like Proto Man was essential to the story they were telling necessarily.
Yeah.
Although, I mean, I guess if you look back at the, Light and Wily origins, he could have fit in there somehow.
Oh, that's true.
I'm just more disappointed that we didn't get to fight a double gear Base.
That's what I wanted. I wanted an overclocked Base, just a boss fight in Wily Castle, Mega Man versus a double gear equipped Base. That's what I wanted so much.
Like, even if you just have the stage be a boss gauntlet, still have a boss at the end of stage 3 and be like, oh, here's Base, double gear. Like, holy crap. I would have made it up so much.
Because, I mean, even at this point, if Base's character, if you accept that Base's character, he's grown apart from Wily, he's not doing Wily's bidding anymore, he just wants to prove he's the strongest, you can be damn sure he still would have wanted to be equipped with the double gear system to fight Mega Man on more even terms. Like, he would do that just because. Wily wouldn't even have to ask him. He would just do it.
Yeah.
Gear me up, Doctor.
Yeah.
Okie dokie.
Here's my take on Base and Proto Man in this game, though. Like you said, LBD, I didn't feel like they were integral to the story. It seemed like the story was very small in scope. There wasn't many characters to keep track of. I think the story was fine as it is, to be honest. I never found myself at any point asking myself, well, where's Base and Proto Man? Why aren't they here? No, it felt fine. It felt like, this is what they were going with, and I never felt like they needed to be there. But then at the end of the day, when the credits started rolling, I'm like, oh, wait a minute, they weren't there, were they?
Yeah.
Right.
Now, here's a thought. Do you guys think someone else was kind of missing in a small way that would have fit really well?
Tango? Yes.
Yeah, clearly Tango.
Well, Tango, obviously. Tango should be in every Mega Man game, but that goes without saying. No, I mean besides him.
Yeah, I mean, I know what you're getting at, but at the same time, I feel like we have to maybe accept that connection is never going to be seen within an official game. I just don't think it's going to happen.
Yeah.
I consider the arcade games official, but honestly, and I mean this is a new team, new rules. It's anything goes as near as I can tell, because they're kind of doing their own thing here. I'll get back to that in just a moment. But honestly, it's just how much sense would it make to know that Zero is powered by, say, a perfected version of the double gear system, because they've already been throwing in the Robo-Enza and the evil energy, and I feel like there's something else I'm forgetting, and it's just, Zero is literally like the culmination of everything Wily has ever done, and I feel like, the double gear system just fits in with that so perfectly. The Basium, that's the other thing.
Oh yeah, definitely. I agree with you. Like, the power gear itself is like the arm part from Mega Man X. It charges up special weapons and all that. Then you got the speed gear, it's kind of like dashing it a little bit. But then again, I don't see why people are so mad that there isn't any X tie-ins in this game, because let's be honest, while it would be amazing, they aren't going to tie into X anytime soon. They want to keep the series going. The moment they lead into X, it's over for Classic.
I'm not mad or anything, but it's, Zero, I figured it's a given by now that it's a long game thing for Wily. It's his, weekend work, between his other schemes. It's almost like more of a hobby, the stuff we see in the games is his career for a comparison. It's just one of those things that, we'll see it someday when he, gets around to it, should he live that long.
Right.
But, it's not happening anytime soon. But the occasional breadcrumb that, so this is why Zero is it's a nice thing to have.
Yeah.
We didn't get to see Zero, but we did get to see Wily in pajamas. I'm okay
With
with
the
that.
skull motif.
Confirming him being in Smash, no less.
even the window is a skull.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. No, like, I understand the disappointment. I'm kind of disappointed there wasn't anything about X in there either, but at the same time, those people online right now, I've seen some of them in the comment section, they're like, oh, I'm so mad that there's no X tie-ins in this game. Capcom, what are you doing? Like, I don't agree with those people. I'm not mad like they are.
No.
No.
I think people, you know, they've really latched on to that one reference in the arcade game, Power Fight. Is it Power Fighter or Power Battle? I always get the two mixed up.
Power Fighters.
Power Fighters, yeah. And I think people have latched on to that one, you know, kind of classic series connection, and just they've used that as kind of a springboard to expect something else. And I just don't. I mean, we do have a new team, as you guys pointed out, so maybe anything goes, and they'll do that. But I don't know. They're just kind of like Wily. They're playing the long game here. They want Mega Man to go to Mega Man 20, I assume, and
Yeah.
you can't really do that if you just go ahead and wrap things up and lead right into the X series.
Yeah.
I don't think you have to wrap anything up. I mean, it's just, again, just, you know, like I said, breadcrumbs. Just, you know, like they've been doing it already anyway with the other elements that have been introduced in the last several games. It's just, you know, more of that, I figure.
Yeah, I would be all about it. I think for me, I just see it as kind of a nice bonus. Like, I'm hoping to see an X Series connection in an upcoming classic game, and if we get it, I'll be like, oh man, that's a really cool surprise. They actually did it. But I don't go in expecting it, necessarily.
Yeah, I think part of it is the arcade game, but also what Mega Phil X did with Mega Man Unlimited, with the ending where he faces off of Zero in like a unfinished state. And he completely bodies Mega Man.
That was so perfectly done, too.
Yeah, it was so good. I think that's what fans are gripping onto as well.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, I just don't know that particular idea serves Capcom's best interests, unless they made like some sort of like a kind of like a guide and a side story kind of thing. Like the comparison I always go to is if Capcom ever did like go full connection, this is where Mega Man ends. It might be best done in kind of a Batman Beyond Return of the Joker sort of way. The way that kind of capped off the Batman-Joker rivalry of the original series, but it was like future tense, so they could still keep telling more Batman stories, and they did, if you look at Justice League and Justice League Unlimited. But, you know, there was at least that sense of closure with the future going forward.
Wiggle room.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
You know what they should do to really confuse everybody is if they ever have a classic series game where they have the connection and Zero's there, they should just call it Mega Man Zero, but the number zero, not the word zero. Call it Mega Man Zero and really confuse the hell out of everybody.
Even the retailers. Like, you know, what?
Absolutely
Nice.
everyone, yeah.
Oh, by the way, just a quick side note before we go on. You mentioned having trouble keeping battle and fighters straight. Real easy way. B comes before F.
Oh, that's actually perfect. Nice. I will never
That's
wonder
how I
again.
remember it.
Yeah.
Now, back to what we were saying about, like, you know, new team, new rules, like, you know, endless possibilities.
Think about that. They're more playing by the book than a new set of rules, right? Because Mega Man 11 is very safe. They played it very safe with this game.
Yeah.
Well, here's one thing, though, that they did do that I was not expecting, and that is actually, I believe what I said in my review is, rather than, like, you know, expand the world as the last several games had been doing, they kind of, you know, dug deeper into it. Like, we knew that Wily and Light had this, you know, schism between them, and they actually, you know, dug into the origin and of why they had that split, and we found out just what Wily was working on that was apparently so unethical that he was basically banished from, you know, doing like professional robotics
Right.
I
stuff.
really like that about the story.
Like,
Yeah.
yeah. We got to see that, like, you know, in manga and cartoons, but never, like, actually in the game's universe. So, that, yeah, it's very great that they finally incorporated that.
And
established that.
like Ash was saying, you can definitely see the Battle Network influence in this game because the person who helped out with the story was actually the scenario writer for Battle Network, and Battle Network had a very similar thing where a committee or somebody picked Light's research into network technology over Dr. Wily's robotics research. So it's very similar in that way. I like that they put that parallel in there.
Yeah, and
Yeah, that's kind of neat.
I really agree with what you guys or LBD. I think it was you were saying that they're digging deeper into the world rather than expanding it, and I think that's a really good way to put it. I really enjoyed Mega Man 11's story. I do wish there had been a little more of it. I think I was hoping for something a little closer to Mega Man 8, and not with anime cutscenes. I didn't expect them to put that kind of budget into it. I think I was just hoping for a slightly more story-heavy experience. Maybe a few more cutscenes. Just a longer game, as we kind of talked about. Just kind of a little more meat to chew on.
They could have gone with the Mega Man X8 route, too, where there's practically a little scene of dialogue after every stage.
Right, and I can see why
Alright,
that might have been too much for people. At the end of the day, Mega Man is a platformer, and platformers are generally associated with not having a major story element. But at the same time, I'm just speaking as a Mega Man fan. It's been so long since we've had any lore to chew on. It would have been nicer if there had been literally more meat to chew on. But what is here, I really do like that they, as you said, LBD, they deepen the lore rather than try to expand it.
Yeah. A lot of that lore, it's in the glossary, but I kind of, a part of me kind of wishes that was, in the game itself, banter between Mega Man and the Robot Masters.
Yeah.
I'm really missing that, Powered Up did such a cool job with
Right.
that,
Yeah.
I could also see why by doing that, however, that it would really slow down the pace of the game, but it's a simple solution, a skip button.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
Press
basically.
start.
Options are always good.
Yeah.
I mean, I think you can even turn off the voices if you want, so I mean, it's not
Yeah, right.
unheard of.
Yeah. Speaking of slowing down the pace, one thing, and I mentioned this in my review, one thing that consistently slowed down the pace for me, ladders. I don't know if it's Mega Man's age, if he's just getting too old to climb ladders or something, but he's really slow in this game, isn't he? The way he climbs ladders, it just feels wrong to me.
It's ridiculous.
And here, I thought you were going to call out the speed
ridiculously
gear.
slow.
Oh,
I'm surprised there wasn't an item to speed up the ladders. Wasn't that a thing in the 8 and Mega Man and Base?
Yeah.
An optional
think so.
part? Yeah. Yeah, I'm surprised it wasn't there.
The ladders was one small sticking point for me, particularly when you're fighting certain things like those spinny robots that you have to hit in a certain spot. I forget what they're called off the top of my head. And it's okay, I need to duck down a ladder or something, or it's I didn't even try it. I don't think there was even a good or necessary opportunity to try it otherwise, but do the thing where you hang on the ladder and you fire while ducking under the shots when you're not firing.
Oh yeah, I've done that.
Like in Mega Man 2 kind of thing.
I will say something that would help with the climbing ladders thing was apart from Mega Man 8 that increased your climbing ladder speed. And on that note, there's a lot of parts from that Mega Man 8 and the X series that are missing from this game, like super recover, quick charge, charging your charge shot faster. There's some weird omissions from the part list.
Any idea how the parts unlock, by the way? Because I think I finished the game and I still didn't have everything unlocked.
Yeah, so the one myself was missing was weapon catcher. That increases drop rate of weapon energy. Apparently someone told me that you had to use up your entire weapon energy 30 times to unlock it.
what? That's
ridiculous.
So
I guess that makes sense, but I kind of wish they'd kind of told you what you were missing instead of just leaving it a mystery, because it's
yeah.
Right.
I don't really need that.
Yeah.
How are you supposed to figure that out without the strategy guide
It's
telling you?
Especially since they refill your weapons energy after each life. Or is that just on certain modes?
That's
only on casual.
On certain
Yeah.
modes.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I'm filthy casual, so...
Either way, I don't know if Mega Man 11's even long enough for you to naturally need to deplete your special weapons 30
No,
times.
not at all.
I don't think it's long enough to even do that naturally. What a weird unlock condition.
Right. And I understand, they're thinking, oh, well, this player uses special weapons a lot. We should throw him a bone. But they should at least lower the requirement for that, because 30 is just too much.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Speaking of the items, one thing that bugged me is the way that, certain ones were still locked away as unlockables. It's how many times do we need to buy an energy balancer? There was a super energy balancer? Fine. Okay, that's an improvement. That's something different. I can understand buying that. But why do we have to keep buying this? It's a default in Mega Man X even. It's just... it's like when it's almost like when they strip out parts of games to sell them to you as DLC, except it's all in game and no actual cash requirement. But at the same time, it's just feels kind of. I don't know, petty putting it behind some sort of paywall there.
Yeah.
Same with the auto charging thing, because I find it more comfortable to just let it charge and then fire as I need. I mean, maybe I'm just getting older and that's part of it, but it's something I really enjoyed in the X series, and I use every time it's in the options screen. I don't have to buy it there. And then here it's like, oh yeah, this is the thing you can do, but fork over the bolts, and it's like, really? Fine here.
I mean, at least
buy it, but I'm not happy about it.
At least grinding bolts is not an issue in this game, unlike Mega Man X8, where you had to grind metal so much. But in this game, they give you bolts quite often, and like the big ones 100, the small ones are 10. You get a lot of bolts per stage. That it's a non-issue buying most of the upgrades.
Yeah. And you got these items to kind of jack up how many bolts you get when you beat a stage,
Yeah, the mystery trip.
They help you out.
Yeah, plus when the game's already so short, you need whatever little, instances of progression, character progression you can get. So I feel like they probably just thought the energy balancer was an easy one. That's one of the first upgrades you can buy, but it still feels like an upgrade because you're buying it. Though LBD, I do see what you're saying about how it's, a default option in the X series. So I see it both ways. I see what you're saying, but at the same time, they probably just wanted that sense of progression in there.
I'm more bothered by the auto charger. That's not even open at the start, is it?
No.
Like available?
Actually, yes.
No.
Yes.
It is, isn't it?
It
Yeah,
is?
I had a
Okay.
feeling
Really?
it was, yeah. The one that's
It's
not
just
is the
more
Buster
on
Plus
principle,
chip.
but yeah, I just like to have it there from the start, so not having it there at the very start, like where you still have to get the bolts to buy it or whatever. It's like just still.
And it is 300, so it's not like the energy balancer that's just 100 and it's super. Yeah, I mean, I've never used auto charge, so it's not even something that occurred to me. Like, I've never even thought about using it. Not that there's anything wrong with it. I just personally haven't thought of it. So I didn't even think about that angle. But that's a good point when you consider the fact that it is a default option in the X series. That is kind of weird. I hear you.
Yeah, and again, it's like just a matter of comfort. It's not even like something that increases the challenge.
Sure.
And if I'm being honest, I mean, I do use the auto charger to let off some shots. One of my favorite things is mapping the rapid fire to the A or a circle button, and just really shredding through some enemies. That is satisfying.
Rapid fire is so. I'm actually going to post a clip later today on Twitter through my Switch of me just using rapid fire against one of the mini bosses, and it's like, hey, if you're having trouble, don't forget about the auto fire option, because it is there and it can be really fun.
Nice. I'm surprised rapid wasn't a part, and not auto charge.
Don't give them ideas.
I actually do wish they had done something more akin to Mega Man 8's Buster upgrades that you could buy. Like, the Buster Plus was a good start, and it kind of does that, but I really like the parts in Mega Man 8 where you could have 5 shots on the screen instead of 3,
Yes.
and the part that made them faster, like the Speedy Buster that would turn the shots blue, and I love stuff like that, although I will say the Buster Plus part kind of gets there.
Yeah. It's like, and
that's some cool
8's
stuff.
also had the laser shot, the arrow shot. Like, 8 had so many cool parts, and they're just not here in 11 for some reason.
Yeah, those were fun to play around with, even though you couldn't get them all in a single go.
Right.
But either way, it would have been nice to have them here.
Yeah. Such diversity in items in 8.
Yeah.
Yeah, in a way, it's kind of funny thinking about it. It's like, I like having the fully charged shots, but it's almost mirrors my thoughts on the stages. Like, while I like the longer, the bigger stages, having more shorter with the rapid fire, just interesting little parallel.
Right.
Maybe that says something about how I live my life. It's like if I go to a buffet, I don't eat a lot of anything. I eat a little bit of everything.
Gotcha.
So.
Yeah, you brought up the charge shot just now, and that's something I did want to mention, is that I'm so happy that they finally brought back Mega Man's full repertoire. I always thought, I got why they did it in Mega Man 9 and 10, but I always felt like it was a step backwards to remove those options, especially the slide. The slide felt like it expanded Mega Man's arsenal in a meaningful way, and for them to take that away it just gave Mega Man less options, like less defensive options, and I'm so glad they brought that back. And not only did they bring them both back, but they proved that it's possible to balance the game's difficulty around that, because the reason they took away the charge shot in the first place was because it was making games too easy, like Mega Man 5, for example. But even with Mega Man's full repertoire, Mega Man 11 poses a significant challenge even on normal, I think.
Agreed.
Yeah.
I found the difficulty levels that casual felt more like the normal Mega Man experience to me, and normal was a bit harder.
I've been seeing people say that, and my only counterpoint to that is I can see why, but Mega Man takes so little damage in that mode. That's the only thing to me that felt like it was actually casual, like it actually earned its name.
Yeah.
Everything else, I actually feel like, no, it is almost as hard as normal. But the fact that Mega Man takes so little damage, you can just kind of tank your way through most fights in casual mode, I found.
And there's so many checkpoints in casual mode. Like, isn't like every 2 screens there's a checkpoint?
I think like every 1 or 2 screens, yeah.
Yeah, I could have gone with fewer of those, but otherwise, yeah.
I don't think I even noticed, but I mean, that was just down to me not dying so much, but, you know.
On the flip side, how you guys feel about the amount of checkpoints in normal mode?
Yeah, see, it goes too far the other way in normal mode, I feel, because I'm a crusty old adult, and I don't have as much time for games as I used to, so
Preach.
really, really, really punitive checkpoint placement doesn't sit well with me. At the same time, Brian, what you were saying, I agree with you, that it's, maybe casual mode goes too far the other way in having,
There is like no middle ground difficulty, that kind of combines the two.
Right.
I wish there was like few checkpoints, but challenging.
You know what this reminds me of? X Challenge.
You're right.
Yeah.
Oh my god.
The easy is like way too easy.
Easy.
You don't take enough damage.
Yeah, that's a
You're
good
like
point.
creaming the bosses, and then when you go to the other one, it's like nothing seems to affect them while you're like, just watching your life bar like, plummet like a skydiver. And there's no real middle ground that feels like quite normal, like just like they're either taking too much damage or not enough.
Right.
And there's no middle ground that feels like accurate to the fights you've had in the past. And that's kind of like the casual and normal there. It's I guess that might be this team's Achilles heel. Hopefully they can work on that, finding that middle ground that satisfies people.
Even the name casual for casual mode, it's like it's not casual. Like in the Japanese version, it's called advanced, and I feel like that's a much more like fitting name for it.
Yeah.
I don't think I knew
Agreed.
that. Interesting.
Yeah.
Then again, I found casual too easy.
I'm not filthy casual. I'm advanced.
Exactly.
Yes.
It makes me feel bad.
Yeah.
So, let's see. Moving on from the Buster and such, and since we've talked about the Robot Masters and their stages, how about their weapons?
Some of the
think
best yet, in my opinion.
They are some of the best in the series, like Ash said.
So good.
I feel the assortment is
Yeah.
very well rounded and conducive to being used throughout stages, more like back in, say, I don't know if Mega Man 2 is a good example, because, like, who takes off the Metal Gear, right?
Yeah.
But, still. I
Well,
found
like-
myself switching to different weapons for different
Yeah,
situations
exactly.
a lot.
Mega Man 11 has so many good weapons that you basically want to use all of them because they'll hit in different directions, right? Like Thunderstorm hits vertically. You can do an arcing shot with the blazing torch. Fuseman's weapon goes along the ground. Block dropper hits from above. Like there's so many different ways you can hit an enemy from any direction with all these weapons. They really encourage you to use all of them.
Yeah.
And I really like that.
Yeah.
Yeah, and not only that, but some of the weapons have additional utility beyond just offense. Like the pile driver, for example, is basically X doing an air dash, which is really
Right.
neat for classic Mega Man to be able to do.
Right.
And not only that, you also get additional utility opened up by the power gear, which changes each weapon. Obviously the basic offensive weapons just get more offensive, but like with the pile driver's example, the dash goes further, and I feel like that kind of difference opens up a huge amount of potential for experimentation that hasn't really existed before in Mega Man.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm inclined to agree with that, yeah.
Yeah.
I know that I used the pile driver to dash, past spikes and certain traps a lot in Acid Man's stage,
Yep.
for example.
Yeah. This was the most I've ever used special weapons outside of Robot Masters. Like, I've used them a ton just to get through stages. And, like, even discovering how, like, even the gimmicks in the stages have a weakness. Like, a Torchman stage, the wall of fire, you can freeze that with Thunderstorm. And
Wait, what?
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You can
Yeah.
do
I
it.
just found that out recently in my superhero run. I was like, wait, you can do that?
Yeah. And Rubberman, you can shoot his the bullets at the little electricity things, Infuse Man stage, it immediately gets rid of them. Like, it's so cool. The game really encourages you to play with them and see what you can mess around.
Yeah, I found it funny that the weakness to the Robot Master in terms of spatula weapon is the one that breaks the whole stage, too. Not just the Robot Master.
Yeah, and not only that, but the mini-bosses. Like, I found that the mini-bosses in general were weak to the same weapon that the Robot Master at the end of their stage is weak against, which... that felt a little predictable. Like, I feel like they could have maybe varied up those weaknesses a little more, but I have to say, just in general, the weakness chain for Mega Man 11 is awesome. It actually makes sense. If you sit down and think about it, you can actually suss it out yourself. I think that's really cool.
It's so obvious that I completely called it on Twitter on September 9th.
I can't believe that. Like, the only one that was tricky for me was, like, Acid Man and Impact Man. Like, he rusts.
Yeah, that one's a little weird.
I don't know.
Sure.
Yeah.
You know, I actually had a little trouble figuring out, Nadia and myself, we had a little trouble figuring out some of the weaknesses there, because I guess we just kind of looked the wrong way, and that just kind of trickled down to everything else. Like, you had Blockman, he's made of these rock blocks. Well, what would work well against rock blocks? How about a pile driver? No, that didn't really seem to work so well. And everything just kind of broke down a little bit from there. But then we did eventually start finding, and it's like we were looking back in retrospect, and it's like, okay, that makes sense.
Yeah.
Like, I believe you use the blocks against Torchman, which is essentially like shoveling dirt on a fire. The fire, of course, works on the explosive guy rather than the ice guy. Basically, like, kind of Fireman and Bombman, if I recall correctly. So, I mean, it works, but at the same time, it's kind of easy to be fooled into thinking, like, you know, other ways, too. Like, oh, well, Tundra Man, he's made of ice. Surely that would put out a fire. Or surely a fire would, like, you know, melt that.
Sure, like the Pokemon connection.
Although you do get that little bit of throwback. I don't know if that was an intentional throwback or not, but the fact that Tundra Man is weak to the Scramble Thunder did remind me of Elecman and Iceman.
Yeah, that's how I thought of it when I was doing my predictions. I was thinking, in Mega Man 1, the electric weapon works on the Ice Robot Master, and Ice Robot Master works on the Fire Robot Master. So that's how I pretty much called it.
I think in the first couple of games, there were, like, multiple potential weaknesses. Like, they had a certain weakness, but other things would be effective as well, just maybe not as effective. Like, I remember one strategy guide, I think it was a Nintendo Power, that said basically, like, Fireman, use Ice Slasher, Iceman, use Firestorm, and just kind of like that. But it's like, okay, you've got the ice guy, ice is made of water, water conducts electricity, so, you know, it checks out. It just may not be the first thing you think of.
And they do have a whole damage table. If you look in the strategy guide, like, Block Dropper does 2 damage against Tundra Man, instead of some other weapons that do only 1, for example. So, you know, there's some little damage changes going on there.
Okay, I guess it was minute enough that I didn't really quite notice, but there is a difference. Oh yeah, do you guys have any favorite special weapons from the lot?
I gotta say, I really enjoyed the Tundra Storm.
Yeah.
That's my favorite, too.
I just enjoy it. It's just fun to use.
That's a good one, especially when you power it up.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, the screen clearing. Yeah.
Dashing through with Impact Man's weapon. That's so great. It's good for speedruns, time trials,
I like the block dropper, just dropping all these blocks from nowhere that just come cascading down, especially when you power it up and you've got like 12 blocks or something falling.
Honestly, the powered-up block dropper threatens to break certain parts of the game. It's really strong. Like, all it takes is, like, 2 powered-up block droppers to take out the mini-boss in Impact Man stage. Like, I think if you hit him with 2 full blasts, it's just that's it. And
yeah, I haven't seen his full attack pattern, because that's what I do every time. I feel bad.
Same thing with the mini-boss in Acid Man stage, too, actually.
Yeah. I'll go ahead and pick out a 4th one, Acid Barrier.
Time for an experiment!
That is probably one of the best barriers in the series. It basically reflects every projectile, but then when you power up with the power gear, you can literally run through enemies with it sometimes. It's really cool.
Okay, I never got a real good grip on that one, but I should give it another try sometime, I guess.
Yeah, just remember to power up with the power gear, and you can pretty much run through everything without any trouble.
Yeah, it kind of reminded me, in that sense, of the Jewel Satellite, which prior to now, I don't know if the Jewel Satellite might still be better, just because it just seems like it tanks through everything, but it did remind me of the Jewel Satellite, and that the powered-up Acid Barrier really just lets you kind of fire and forget.
Yeah.
I loved that the
Yeah.
Jules satellite would actually deflect shots back at the
Yeah.
enemy who sent them. The acid
So
shield
does-
doesn't do that, unfortunately. But,
Acid does actually. It does reflect.
oh, it does?
When you use the power gear version of it, projectiles will reflect projectiles, and these acid droplets will bounce off of it. It's pretty cool, actually.
Okay, is the acid shield weak to anything in particular? Because I swear it seemed like it was constantly breaking on me. I must have been doing something wrong.
I think
but
it's
I don't
timed.
know what.
It's mostly timed, I believe.
Oh, okay. I guess maybe that'll do it. Now, let's see. With the special weapons out of the way, everybody got to have their say, right?
Oh, yeah.
Oh,
Okay.
yeah.
Yeah.
So, how about the power gear system itself?
This is the prototype double gear system that Wily developed back at Robot University.
How do you guys feel about that one? Because one thing I want to say about that one is it doesn't quite feel like an evolutionary step for Mega Man. And I say that chiefly because it really, the way the story is set up and everything, it really feels like a one and done thing. And like, I don't expect us to be seeing it at Mega Man 12 or beyond.
Oh no, like it's not very innovative because it's basically just like X's arm part. It charges up your Mega Buster for more powerful shots. It also charges up your special weapons, and that's pretty much the end of it.
Right, and that's optional. You know, nothing in the game ever
Yeah.
forces you to use either power gear. It's really there for new players, like at its core. Yeah.
And for speedrunners, I would say.
Yeah, that too. Yeah.
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 Yeah. And I actually think it's really cool. Like, I love that it adds, like, this kind of element of meter management to Mega Man's kind of standard gameplay. At the same time, I kind of found it to be similar to the drop dash in my initial playthroughs of Sonic Mania, where I just completely forgot it existed until later playthroughs. And I actually do find myself now, again, like Sonic Mania, when I go back and play it now, I'm using the drop dash all the time. And I have told myself, like, going back for future playthroughs of Mega Man 11, like, I want to use the double gear system more just to see how it can affect the game and break it in various ways. And so I have been having a good time going back through the game and using it more. But it is very true, you don't need it to beat the game, and I barely used it my first time through.
No.
It's funny you mentioned that about the drop dash, because I caught that during your review, and I'm just thinking to myself, oh man, once I figured out how to use it, try and stop me from using it.
Yeah, now I use it all the time, and like I never want to pick anyone other than Sonic because it's so fun to use. But that first playthrough, I barely, like, I just completely overlooked it. For whatever reason.
Going back to the gears on that, it's like, okay, I used the power gear occasionally, mostly I think against bosses or in certain situations where it just felt like that extra oomph would be handy, but I didn't use it nearly as much as the speed gear.
No.
Which
Yeah.
in some cases it almost feels like, essential until you really know what you're doing. Like, I know it's not, but it's like my go-to comparison is the Quickman stage. At first it feels impossible to do without the time stopper, but once you know what you're doing, you don't have to use the time stopper at all. And I'm still getting to that point with, like, say, the fire stuff, which now that I know that the Tundra thing will freeze it, will probably help. But I use the speed gear a bit more. I don't think I ever used double gear, both of them in conjunction. And it's not like I didn't have the opportunity, but I didn't know when was, like, the right time. They just say when you're at, like, low or critical health or something, and maybe I just missed the tell for that, but did you guys ever really use it?
Yeah, when you're at low health, like 4 health points or below, you can use it. But yeah, it doesn't really visually tell you or anything when you can use it. There's no, like, it would have been nice, like in past Mega Man games, you can visually see when Mega Man is tired from taking so much damage, but there's nothing like that in this game.
Yeah.
No, there isn't.
I agree, there should have been more of a visual tell. But no, I didn't use the double gear technique much at all. I don't know if I even used it at all in regular gameplay, just because it doesn't feel like it's necessarily... I don't know if the payoff is worth it, because you get this one last-ditch charge shot. If you miss, then, well, you're even more screwed than you were before, because now Mega Man's Buster's powered down and you can't charge, and
You're already dead.
Pretty much.
Well, I kind of like it because odds are at that point you were probably already dead anyway.
Yeah.
So it's a neat kind of gambit.
Right.
Like, okay, let's go full anime and see if we can just call upon this hidden power and just turn everything around at the last second.
No, it's definitely an anime mechanic.
totally. Speaking of the double gear system, though, I just thought of something. One of the parts you unlock is the part that lets you use the gear system indefinitely. and like as in your meter never fills up. And I going back to what we were talking about, how there are little bits of lore here and there kind of tucked away into the game's text. I really liked how, I think it's that item talks about how it unlocks some of Mega Man's quote-unquote hidden potential, and I'm like, oh, there are echoes of X right there. I love it.
Nice.
Neat. Okay, maybe that's our X connection there then. Maybe Light decided to tweak it and stick it in X.
Well, it's funny, you do see that, like certain characteristics of the double gear system, like the fact that special weapons can be powered up. Mm-hmm. They do remind one of X's natural abilities, which kind of goes to what we were saying, that they could have very neatly and very naturally slid in actual X series references without having necessarily to end the series there.
I think they did actually in the story, because I actually mentioned this in my own review, but the storyline, the whole war between Dr. Light and Dr. Wily, independent thoughts versus sheer power, that's just going back to the X series again, with robots that can think for themselves versus the Mavericks who just want sheer power to rule the world and all that.
Evolution and all that.
Evolution. Yeah.
But, yeah, that's actually a great point. And I mean, I actually prefer those kinds of hints. Like, okay, I'll admit, back in the day, seeing Zero's blueprint was just like amazing because, you know, that's where we were at the time. But I like the more subtle things, like when one of the other endings, Mega Man's ending, I forget which game, but like, you know, Mega Man's like lamenting, you know, the ongoing struggle, and Dr. Light's like, you know, what we need isn't you as a hero, Otto, but what we need is robots who can determine right and wrong for themselves rather than relying on their programming. And I mean, that's obviously referencing X, but at the same time, it's not being like so blatant about it.
No, they're laying the
still like, you know, whip out the blueprints and refer to girly looking hair.
Yeah.
Oh man.
Yeah, like Light is all about, you know, robots and humans working together, and Dr. Wily has his own vision of that, where if robots pretty much surpass humans, then everything will be fine. But, you know, it's those ideologies clashing together all throughout Classic and the X series.
Yeah, again, the digging deeper into the lore here really, in a way, it is its own bridge, like, now that you mention it. So, but, you know, at the same time, I would just, to borrow a wrestling term, I would totally mark out if I knew that Zero was running on double gears this whole time. That would just be amazing. But,
Wily is a robot? Oh?
Let's see, do we have anything else to say about the double gear system?
It's just that I definitely use the speed gear more for the platforming sections. Like Fuse Man and Torch Man are the big ones. Power is good though. I used it a lot for charging special weapons mainly. It's not as good for the Mega Buster. I only used it like maybe a couple times per stage. But
my problem with using it for the Mega Buster is it cancels your charge out, and you've got this really short time to bring it up to full there and let it go before the whole thing just completely, you know, craps out, for lack of a better expression, and then you're just kind of like, you know, trying to get everything back together.
Double gear is completely useless on the other hand. It's only really there if you have one hit point left and the boss does too, and you just want to get that last shot in. Otherwise, it's just too risky to use.
Yeah, I pretty much agree. I got zero use out of the double gear technique, but I too use the speed gear much more than the power gear. Though I am finding with repeat playthroughs that I'm using the power gear more often to power up special weapons, so there is that. Yeah. I'm like forcing myself to experiment with it more, but in general, I use the speed gear more when I remember to use that even.
Yeah.
Right. It's like you said, Ash, that when you first play the game, you're in that mindset of the original Mega Man games. Oh, I should just play it like normally. But then you realize as you play the game more and more, the power gear and the speed gear are actually really, really useful for like speed runs or just, you know, getting through stages quicker. So it's really good.
Yeah.
You know, I just had a thought about the double gear usage. Like, I wonder if it's going to be commonplace that it's just so seldom used. And if it is, it makes me wish there'd been one more boss, something that happens, and Mega Man is just fully unlocked, double gear, no restrictions.
Okay, that'll be awesome.
You've got the speed.
That would have been
you've got
base.
the power,
So cool.
and you just tear up whatever Wily throws in front of you. Just that hidden potential thing,
He
fully
throws-
unlocks.
He throws all
I
these
wanted
leftover
that.
Wily machines at you, and you go bam, bam, bam.
It's
Just
so
that would've been
anime.
awesome.
I love it. You know.
kind of like Kirby does at the end of his recent games, where he's got some crazy power like Hypernova or the
Yes.
giant Ultra Sword or whatever,
Yeah.
where he just gets to go
Yeah.
crazy. Yeah, that would have been awesome. Oh man.
Hey,
That's a great segue into the fact that Mega Man 11 at the end just feels unfinished, I would say. Like, it feels like they would have done more of it, but then I don't know if they ran out of budget or they ran out of time, but...
Can I stop you right there before we delve too far into that one? Because I
Okay.
just want to touch on one other subject before we kind
Sure.
of get into like our overall thoughts on the game, which ironically is where I thought we'd start, but that didn't happen. But I just want to talk about the music and sound and see what
Oh,
you guys
sure.
thought on
Yes. So the music, I as anyone who knows me, I'm a huge aficionado of video game music, so that's like a hugely important part of the game for me. And I think Marika Suzuki did a good job, not a great one, but I see some people really bagging on the soundtrack, and I don't agree with them. I think there are some really good tunes here. I just think the problem is they're not all hits, whereas Mega Man soundtracks usually are hits across the board, and this one's kind of hit or miss. But I do think the hits are real hits.
Oh, definitely.
Do you think they're as catchy as some of the like previous ones? Do you think there's maybe not on the level of, say, Dr. Wily's Castle, and you know which one I'm talking about, but something that really sticks with you? Do you think there's anything in there that comes close to that?
I have two in my mind. Fuseman stage, which is the first one we hear, ironically enough, and Dr. Wily's stage music in Mega Man 11. Those are the two, my most favorite tunes, and man, they're really catchy.
Yeah, I was sold on Fuse Man from the reveal trailer. Perfect song.
Yeah, the Fuse Man's
Yeah.
really good. I would say I'm a big fan of Impact Man's theme as well as Torchman. I think both Torchman actually kind of reminds me of Castlevania a bit, which is never a bad thing. And yeah, so I would say Impact Man and Torchman are two others that I really like. And Acid Man. Acid Man, it takes a little while to get going, but
Right.
once it does and it kind of hits its stride, Acid Man's theme is really good.
Yeah, it's different.
Yeah, on that note, like you said, Acid Man's takes a while to get going, but I think it's because they really went for the atmospheric approach of the soundtrack. Like Bounce Man and Tundra Man, they're a bit more in the background, a bit quieter, but I do enjoy Tundra Man a lot. That's one of my favorites as well. As well as Blockman. People bag on Blockman's music, but I actually love it, especially when it gets going towards the end of the loop.
You know the one I really love? Yeah, I love the game over and the extra mode menu music. It's so rad.
Oh, the extra mode menu music is great. I agree.
God, you could dance to that all day.
I'll say, I think my favorite song in the game, though, might be the stage select theme. I will leave that on for hours and just listen to it on repeat. Because it's got that really perfect balance of like drama and kind of hopefulness that Mega Man music nails so well at its best. But it's also just really fun to listen to. I don't know. I think the stage select theme might be one of my favorites in the entire series.
I agree.
That was a pretty good one. Incidentally, as a side note, kind of weird that the stage select starts with Mega Man looking at Blockman, who incidentally was also the demo, so I wonder if there's a connection there. But instead of like the neutral position, it's kind of interesting that they actually nudge you here, like which way to go.
Yeah, which I wasn't a big fan of, actually. I kind of, part of Mega Man's whole appeal is that you're charting your own course, and of course they're not making you go to Blockman stage first, but just that little nudge makes you feel like, okay, I should do Blockman stage first, and I kind of wish they hadn't done that and just let players experiment.
Sure.
Yeah, that would have been nice. Although, I mean, I was doing it anyway because I'd already beaten the demo, so like, hey, let's get a free Robot Master weapons.
Yeah,
what it came
pretty
down
much.
to.
That's what it came down to. Is like that's the stage we practice the most. Blockman is super easy to take down just because we practice it so much. So why don't you just get that out of the way first?
Yeah.
But going back off the tangent, yeah, as far as the music, I was able to get the code for the download the alternate soundtrack with the orchestral. I'll be honest, while I like the regular music, that's what saw me through the Robot Master's stages. It only covers the 8 of them. But it was some really good stuff, and I actually kind of preferred listening to it that way versus the normal mode stuff.
Nice. I'm actually trying really hard not to listen to them outside of the context of the game because I got a code for them, but it's for the PS4 version, which I got a review code for the Switch version. So I have the music for a system that I can't, or I could just go buy it on PS4, which I may end up doing anyway. But I've heard really good things about the piano, orchestrated soundtrack, and I am trying really hard not to just go ahead and listen to them because I really want to experience them in the context of the game.
Yeah, that's a good call, because I was a little unsure at first, but then it's like playing Blockmans, and it's like it was good, and then I played Blockmans with the orchestral soundtrack, and it's like, oh yeah,
Nice.
going with this.
So for me, I didn't get a code for the instrumental soundtrack, so I didn't get to listen to it until yesterday with my Switch version. I'll say, yeah, I agree with you. They're pretty nice tracks. I don't know if I prefer them over the normal ones per se, because a lot of them are more in the background. I had to physically turn down the sound effects and the voices so I could hear them all right. But yeah, there are some nice tracks. I do prefer them. Maybe more to listen to as an MP3 on an MP3 player, but yeah, they're nice, I would say.
Yeah.
I don't know if anybody's done it. Maybe you could do this, ShadowRock or Ash or somebody. But it would be really cool because you can't switch on the fly or just go to the options screen or anything. Like, you have to do it at the options at the very beginning of the game, like before you load up.
Right.
So it's like I didn't really get to switch back and forth and see which one I would prefer. But after that one, I just kind of went with the orchestra and stuck with it. So maybe some of the others I would like more. I need to go back and play again and listen to them through. But an easy way to kind of hear them side by side would be really nice.
That's true.
Just a quick comparison.
Pulp.
And I kind of, along the same lines, I kind of wish you could switch voice tracks right within the game itself and not only from the title screen, just so you could kind of, switch back and forth and compare and contrast, within the game itself. But I also understand why maybe that is not an option.
Boom, segue. Beautiful, thank you, because I want to cover the voices too. And I'd just like to start by saying, wow, Otto, your voice has changed.
Yo, Mega! Can I interest you in some parts?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Always picture him as having this lower voice, but no, he's got a very high-pitched voice. It's like, whoa, okay, this is different.
I was okay with it, though.
Yeah, it's not terrible. It just took some...
Hey, Mega Buddy.
Yeah, that's really good, actually. Yeah, right. Hey, Mega Buddy. Yeah.
It just took some getting used to.
Mega Man 8, I thought he was one of the more fitting voices. It almost seemed like a slightly higher-pitched Rhinox or something to me, which somehow just seemed to fit his stature and I guess his color scheme as well in a way. And then it's he's sounds like I can't place who, but I just want to say he sounds like somebody out of DuckTales now, and that just totally threw me when I started the game.
Oh my god, that's great.
Yeah, I could totally hear that. But yeah, I don't know. I was cool with Otto's voice. I actually quite liked it, and just in general, I would say for me the weak link in the English voice cast was Dr. Light.
Ah, Mega Man!
But other than that, I gotta say, the English voice cast across the board, even if I'm not, personally a fan of Mega Man sounding older, they did a great job.
Yeah.
I think so, yeah. I enjoyed it. I mean, even Otto grew on me. It was just that initial whiplash.
I loved Bounce Mans. Initially I thought that was going to be super annoying, kind of like Clown Man or whatever, but that was great.
Oh boy, a new playmate!
I love...
Yeah. Bounce Man's
Speaking
funny.
of Bounce Man, I agree with you, but I love Bounce Man's one, death... I say quote, but it's not really a quote, where he just goes ooh, and that's it. And I'm like, what? That's so weird, but it's so good for the character.
Bounce Man is so weird. Yeah, he goes,
Yeah.
oh boy, a new playmate! or let's get hopping! It's like,
I want to touch Bounce Man. The textures look so good.
Totally. And that was such a great, LBD, I totally heard what you were saying before about because I too originally thought the pile driver might work best against Blockman because, it just makes sense. But then when I realized that the Bounce Man is literally a balloon, I'm like, I bet it's supposed to puncture Balloon Man. Then, of course, it worked.
Yeah,
and I thought that was a cool...
Yeah, that was my secondary thought. It's okay, what else would a pile driver be good on? Well, those balls are sort of balloon-like, I guess.
yeah.
So let's try that.
Yeah.
Well, that was actually at the end of the game during the rematch that I came to that conclusion because I basically just beat Bounce Man with the Buster.
Oh, you did? Yeah. Nice. Yeah, that was actually something I was going to say, is every single boss in this game, or every single Robot Master, is so fun to fight with just the Mega Buster. Like, I actually prefer using the Mega Buster because I feel like the special weapons make it too easy, especially with the power gear. They bring down the bosses far too quickly. But these are actually really fun to fight with the Mega Buster, and that's not true of all Robot Masters.
And, you say that, but I do agree that the fights go a lot faster using the special weapons, but I also like that there are very little cases of Spark Mandrill syndrome in this game.
Good point.
The special weapons don't actually change their AI that much, except for Bounce Man, who, when you use it against him, he just breaks apart, and he's like, oh. It's just kind of funny, but yeah, I do like that.
I had fun either way. It's like, okay, let's try this special weapon. Doesn't work, and if you could just picture Mega Man doing that thing that, Henry Cavill, Superman does in that Mission Impossible movie with his arms, just like lock and loading for like going in there. That's like, all right, we'll just do this the old-fashioned way then.
I wanted to piggyback off of Ash's point real quick and say that, as I said in my review too, you could pretty much do all the stages first. If you're, some stages are harder, of course, like Torchman, for example. That's one of the harder ones. But overall, like, if you know how they work, you can get through them and buster only all the bosses. And I really like that because it opens up the game for a lot of replay value.
Yeah.
Definitely, yeah.
Mm-hmm. I agree with that. Before we move on from the overall sound category, I will say that I was kind of underwhelmed by the sound effects. And I know that's kind of a minor point in general, but I just was kind of hoping for something a little more stylized, like Mega Man's, like Mega Man's landing sound effect when he lands on a platform or on the ground. That's an iconic sound, and I kind of wish they brought that back, or maybe updated it and brought a version of that back, as opposed to the kind of you just kind of have a just regular sound like a bam, and that's it. Yeah. And I just kind of I wish they had done a little more with the sound effects.
Yeah,
just in general.
There were so few iconic sounds. Like, the only one I can remember is like Wily's UFO. And that was it. That was one for one, the same.
Yeah,
but,
I do miss the punchiness of the sound effects from the Mega Buster when he hit enemies, like boo 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 boo. Like, I miss that so much. Like, it feels kind of it's just like it doesn't really give you any satisfaction hitting enemies this time around. It's just there.
Yeah, I agree. It's just the sound effects are there, but they don't really impress, or they're not really memorable or really pull you into the game in any way. Except for one. I'll say one that I really like is the gear sound effect when you turn on the power gear or speed gear. That click is so satisfying. Kind of reminds me of the Switch's click, how satisfying that is. But it literally feels like Mega Man is switching something on his body, and that's really cool.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's pretty cool. I'm glad you brought up the sound effects and stuff because, it's like you said, it just left me very neutral. They were fine, but, nothing really stood out to me either, so I didn't really know what to say.
Yeah.
But maybe that landing sound effect, they can include that, with the patch that they haven't announced yet for fixing the jumping through the door. Because, can't have one without the other, right?
Right. Oh, man.
Okay, so moving on then. Before we get to our thoughts on the game overall, is there any other category or something that we should touch on?
Do you guys think that there'll be any DLC in the game, and if so, what would they do?
Well, Proto Man and Bass either playable or in some other fashion, as bonus episodes would certainly be nice.
Mm-hmm.
Let's see. I'm trying to think
I'd like to see classic Robot Masters returned.
That would be cool.
New forms based on them.
Yeah, I was just thinking. I was thinking. I believe it was Mega Man 10 that brought back the Mega Man hunters, and you could get their weapons and take that into the main game, right?
Yeah.
Right.
And they were the guide shows they were looking at bringing back Cutman and stuff, weren't they? So maybe that could be a DLC thing. You go, you fight the new geared up Robot Masters, and then you can take their weapons in. Is there enough room on that stage select? I guess they could patch more room. But...
on the save file screen, there seems to be more room where they could fit some special weapons on there. So
we were talking.
Yeah.
They can easily slide over and fit in more.
Yeah.
It literally looks like there's room for 2 more columns, which I would say Proto Man and Bass, but it looks like there is room exactly for 2 more columns of special weapons.
Mm-hmm. And then Protodude also told me about how on the save file screen you can see Mega Man's picture on there. And that's kind of weird that there's a picture of him there, other than for aesthetics, because that means Yeah, maybe you could change its aesthetics a little bit of maybe a costume or Protoman and base, of course.
Right. It's like, this is who you're playing as. But like,
exactly. I was thinking that too.
Yeah, right. Like, okay.
You know, one DLC I'd really like to see, I don't know if it's going to happen, but I'd really love it, is a DLC chiptune soundtrack. Just give me Mega Man 11 soundtrack done in old Mega Man NES style.
So cool.
I would pay like good money for that actually. Like I'd pay more for that than I would a character. I'm not even going to lie. I would love to have that.
Like another Minecraft skin. Like Minecraft.
Dun dun dun.
But yeah, I would just love, kind of along the lines of what the Mega Man 7 and 8 quote-unquote D-makes do, the fan-made Rockman 7 and 8 Famicom games. I would love to hear 11, and you know all these fan remixers are going to do it on YouTube anyway. Like, I could still listen to something like that, but I would love to hear an officially produced chiptune soundtrack for Mega Man 11 that specifically recalls the old games.
Oh, do you guys think, speaking of, like, you know, the D-makes and the Minecraft skin and stuff, do you think they would do a DLC of 8-bit Mega Man to, you know, replace the regular model Mega Man?
I was thinking about that today. Yeah.
I could maybe see that, yeah.
Yeah.
Call up the Monster Hunter guys and have them send their voxel over?
Yeah.
I almost actually think they might not do that, because one of the things with that Mega Man 11 that they seem to really be going for is looking ahead and not looking backwards, and actually ushering in this updated, you know, cool, slick, brand new design for Mega Man that it doesn't feel like they want Mega Man 11 associated with the 8-bit design, you know?
Yeah, because they also said, like, when we were thinking about the art style for this game, we were seeing what people were saying about Mega Man 9 and 10, and we decided that 8-bit is not the way to go. That's not what the fans want. We want to look forward.
Yeah, I mean, like, from an overall aesthetic, I totally get that and I agree, but I'm just thinking, like, you know, from a marketing perspective, I can totally see someone from, like, you know, marketing saying, like, hey, we want to, like, you know, sell a classic skin because, like, you know, 8-bit Mega Man is so iconic.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, some people will be happy. I've seen comments from when the game was revealed saying, oh, this game isn't good because it's not 8-bit. 8-bit is the only good Mega Man game. So for those people,
God,
yeah, they might like it.
Yeah.
My favorite hot take from the game's reveal time was there was someone on Resetera who I don't remember the username or anything, but they said that they're like,
Probably
what is this? This
best.
looks, yeah, right. This looks like a Super Nintendo game, and I'm like, wait a minute. When was the last Super Nintendo game you actually played? Are you kidding me right now?
Oh my god.
Like, the hottest of hot takes.
Maybe if we, like, pixelated it up, we could compare it to Donkey Kong Country or something, maybe.
Maybe. But this game doesn't even come close to looking to a Super Nintendo game.
Yeah.
Like, what?
It's like people that say this looks like a PS2 game. Like, sir, have you played a PS2 game recently?
Yeah.
It's like, can I borrow your Super NES if that's...
Yeah, that sounds like
you really
an
mean
amazing
that?
machine.
Yeah, it's like if you really I want to play your Super Nintendo, yeah.
Your super duper Nintendo.
Yeah, exactly. Or your Mega Nintendo.
There you go.
I had to go there.
Oh my god.
Okay, so, yeah, since we're talking about DLC, I mean, I guess that, like, you know, helping pad things out, that goes back to what I believe ShadowRock was saying earlier about the game feeling kind of unfinished and just our overall thoughts on the game. So do you want to continue that thought, or?
Yeah, so first of all, I should say that this game feels pretty polished. I know about the Blockman glitch that Protodude pointed out. However, the rest of the game...
Wait, which glitch was that? I think I might have missed that. Maybe some of our
If you, like, get
listeners.
stuck in one of the blocks inside of the grinder section.
Yeah.
Oh, I wasn't aware of that.
Yeah, I wasn't
Yeah, the
either,
ones that
actually.
drop down.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah.
Anyways, but other than that little blemish, you can tell that the polish is here. The music's pretty good. The stages are well balanced. The enemy placement, they really encourage you using the special weapons. They pretty much nailed everything they set out to do. But then you get to the end with the Dr. Wily stages. The first two stages are pretty cool. And then you get to 3 and it's just like, wait, that's it? That's all? Where's the other stages? So
Yeah, it drops off.
that's why I feel like it feels unfinished, like they ran out of budget or something. Because it really feels like they could have done more or they wanted to, but they just, for whatever reason, had to drop it.
Maybe, or maybe they wanted it to be more concise rather than, like, you know, dragging it out like so many other Mega Man games have. Sometimes to good effect, sometimes to bad, but, you know.
But even so, I think that's going to be the one point that's really going to condemn this game in people's eyes, is the fact that the end game ends so quickly.
Yeah. Well,
Yeah, I think we're used to the other stuff, but maybe it's a case of, you know, they say if you've got nothing to say, then don't say anything, and maybe they felt that they didn't really have anything else to add with what they've got here that would, you know, fit the normal flow of the game.
I think they definitely went for a quality over quantity approach for the main game.
yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Or stuff got cut for DLC.
Right, that's possible too. I will say it definitely feels too short to me, which is something I mentioned in my review, but it doesn't necessarily feel unfinished. This game feels so thoroughly polished to me that I can't really say that I ever felt that it feels unfinished, but I know what you're getting at ShadowRock for sure.
The reason why I say that is because you get to Wily Stage 3, there's a boss gauntlet. Like, first of all, I should say the stage starts out like, okay, maybe this will be an actual stage, but then you fall down the long pit, you get to the boss gauntlet. I was like, okay, sure, boss gauntlet like usual. And then the final teleporter comes up, you go through it, all of a sudden, Wily Stage 4. Like, wait, that's it? That's all? Not even a boss?
Yeah, seriously.
That's why I say, like...
And they're just like, well, you just fought 8 of them.
Yeah, but it's like...
Yeah.
Those last 2 stages feel like there could have been more, because it felt like there was a start of a stage there. Like in Wily Stage 4, you go on all these platforms, you go on this rail, then you get to this big old grinder with spikes, and no kidding, when I first played this game, I kept getting stuck on that part because I kept trying to go through it. Like, maybe there's a way to open it up or something to go on to the rest of the stage, but no, I had to find out you just gotta drop down, and it's so weird.
Leap of faith.
Yeah, a leap of faith.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, I remember doing that part, and it's just... it was actually my wife who was playing that part, because we were kind of playing in tandem there, and I'm just like... It was like, that was a leap of faith, and it's like, well, look at the alternative.
Yeah.
So she went for it, and she was right.
I do wonder if the overall brevity is part of maybe their focus on playing it safe this time and really just producing a really tightly designed Mega Man game that doesn't try to do too many things out of the ordinary, because it's not just brevity. Like, the level designs themselves, as great as they are, they're also incredibly linear. Like, there's not a single hidden item or a single alternate path to be found
No.
in any of the levels.
That's something else I missed.
That was my greatest disappointment of the game, is that the levels weren't very dense. There's nothing really to make you want to revisit them. You know, I miss, like, Mega Man 8 and Mega Man and Base's, like, alternate paths and, like, you know, finding CDs, using Rush Search to find fun little things.
Same
I
here.
miss that.
Me too.
Yeah.
You know, I get that, but when I was playing, I didn't even think about that. Again, I think the stage length may play into part of that. It's because instead of picking one route or another, you've just got one longer route, and... I don't know, I just didn't really even notice until, like, I stopped thinking about it. I was like, oh yeah, they didn't do that, did they?
Yeah.
Right. I don't know. It just felt like it kind of hurt the replay factor just a little bit. And of course, I say that having already replayed it several times because the levels are that fun.
Yeah, exactly.
But I just wish, like, maybe instead of being able to buy everything or only being able to buy everything, I do wish you could find some of those upgrades hidden throughout the stages. Like, I think that would have been a more fun way to do it. Or
just like Mega Man 7. I mean,
or like
Rush Search was a bit of a pace killer, but like you said, like Mega Man 7 or Mega Man 8, I wish you could find stuff throughout the stages. That's something I definitely missed.
Or like Mega Man 6, that could have been a great use for Proto Man.
Yeah.
Hey, little bro, look at this stuff I nicked off of Dad.
You know, that's a very good point. That's kind of the thing they've done in quite a few Mega Man games, where you go to this one secret room and all of a sudden, boo boo boo, doo doo, Proto Man. You know, there he is, giving you a hint or an item.
Yeah.
I would just say, in general, Mega Man 11 feels like a really, really good, really solid blueprint for the future of Mega Man Classic. Like, it's a really good base. They've established the base they needed to. Now it's time for them to work out from that and spread out and maybe strike out in some new directions and try some new things. So that's why I do hope that Mega Man 12, if and probably when it happens, is a little more experimental and does bring back a little more of that, you know, alternate paths, hidden items, things like that.
Definitely.
Yeah.
What I said in my review is the game doesn't really feel like so much like, I think, a resurrection of Mega Man as it does a return. Like, it doesn't feel like it shifts the paradigm in any major way. It doesn't feel like it's evolving the concept, not like from Mega Man 6, going from Mega Man 6 to Mega Man X, or even from, like, say, Mega Man to Mega Man 2, but you're just given a really solid core Mega Man experience.
Right.
Yeah.
And I would say the most important part of that for me, I think that the fact that the single thing that sells Mega Man 11 for me more than any other as a return to form and as a long-awaited sequel is the fact that if you're not familiar with Mega Man's history and you've never played a Mega Man game before, the core gameplay and the controls and the stop and start on a dime controls were carried over so well into this new graphical style that even somebody with no prior knowledge of Mega Man can pick up the game, start playing, and immediately understand why this is such an enduring character, why Mega Man has been around for so long.
Yeah.
I think that's the most important thing.
It is a great starting point for anybody.
Yep.
Definitely.
Yeah.
And on that note, I have to ask you guys, maybe this could have been brought up earlier, but in my opinion, when I was playing it on the PlayStation 4, like, I'd played it on the demo versions on the Nintendo Switch and the Xbox previously, various builds, and the controls seemed just slightly off to me, like different, not bad, but just different from what I expect from Mega Man. And actually playing the final version, it actually felt a little better to me, like just that slight difference, like that gap was closed with the exception of a few things like the ladders. Did you guys feel that at all, playing the final version?
I can't say I did.
I played the demo so much, like I got used to it.
You know what? Maybe that's what happened to me. Maybe I just grew and adapted to it, because I wasn't sure if there was a point there that, you know, even if you've got reservations about the demo, that the final is a little better or not. So maybe not.
As for me, I played on the Switch for the demo and PS4 for the final.
Same.
And you know, I never really noticed any instances of input lag in the demo, but I know other people have. And I guess I could feel it a little bit, but when I went to the PS4 version, I got the sense that maybe this feels a little bit more tighter in the Switch version, but it's not by much. It still felt like pretty much the same to me.
Yeah, well, when I played both the finals, it seemed okay, but I wouldn't even call it lag. There's just a certain tightness. Like, you know those, I forget what they're called, but the yellow enemies that are everywhere? Mm-hmm. Like, I would miss those a lot during the demo, like, early on, like, and it's the kind of thing where it's like, you know, I can usually, like, you know, bullseye the spinning spools, like in Mega Man 2, pretty easy. Maybe it's just that they're narrower, but in any case, when I went to Blockman first in the PlayStation 4, the final game, and it's just like, you know, boom, boom, I'm just nailing them, and it's just like, okay, yeah, now it feels right.
Yeah, I don't know. I guess maybe there is a slight difference on Switch, because I played the demo on Switch as well as reviewed the game on Switch, and the two did not feel at all different to me, like, whatsoever.
Yeah.
Okay, so, yeah, hard to say what that element is there.
It might be the PS4, for whatever reason, it has ever so slightly less input delay than the Switch version.
Which is funny, because the guys at Gigaboots, they did a test on the demos, and the PS4 had the most lag for what there is of any lag of any of them.
Yeah, I don't know then.
Very weird.
Yeah, it's weird, but okay. So, you know, if you got any reservations, try the demo then. Apparently it's, you know, as solid as the final game.
More or less, yes.
Alright, so, do we have any other final thoughts about Mega Man 11 before we wrap this thing up?
Buy it so we can have more games.
Yeah, me too. I will say this game needs more content, because even the challenge modes, which we didn't touch on too much, that feels pretty, like, it's pretty much standard. Unless you're like a super speedrunner or someone like that, you won't find much in the challenge mode. You'll pretty much get bored of it pretty quickly, so I wish there was more to do in the game beyond the challenge mode, because there really isn't.
Yeah.
So that's why DLC would be nice, like base or Protoman campaigns, or anything, like extra stages.
Yeah.
I want more.
No, same here. I think that's really my final thought, is that the game is so good, and it is such a great return for Mega Man, that I just want more of it. Like, really, my main problem with it is its brevity, is the fact that it does play it so safe that it's that short. But again, the fact that it plays it safe just means it's still a really good game that plays it safe. I just wish there was more of it, which that's I can really think of no higher compliment to pay. I want more of this game that I really enjoy.
Yeah.
Right.
Right.
Exactly. Like, this is such a good foundation for, like IGN said, the next 10 Mega Man games. But no, like, really, it really is a great foundation.
Yeah.
And this is a great starting point for 12.
It would benefit from DLC, but like even if it doesn't get it, it's still such a solid game that it's fine.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
All right, so that everything we got then?
I think so.
Guess so. Yeah.
All right, great. In summation, we really love Mega Man 11, and we want more Mega Man 11, so please buy Mega Man 11.
Yes.
Please support this game, because even the developer's been saying, do you want X9? Do you want Battle Network 7? Buy this game, support Mega Man, and it might actually happen. So, do it, folks.
And at $29.99, it's the perfect price point.
Yeah. Good price.
Yeah.
I don't want to wait.
I don't want to wait another 8 years.
No. I'm going to be old.
All right, so for Protodude, for Ash Paulsen of GameXplain, and for ShadowRockZX, this is LBD Night Train signing out. Everlasting peace out.
The Fully Charged podcast would like to thank Ash Paulsen and ShadowRockZX for joining in for this special edition of the show. Ash's work can be found at youtube.com/GameXplain, and you can follow him at Ash Paulsen on Twitter. ShadowRockZX can be found at youtube.com/user/ShadowRockZX and on Twitter at ShadowRockX. Protodude's Rockman Corner is at rockman-corner.com, and you can find him on Twitter at Protodude. Finally, you can follow the Mega Man Network by going to @the Network on Twitter or themmnetwork.com. Thank you, and good night.